The Morning Majority on 630.
WMAL. 8:07 on WMAL. I still don't know what to make of that Eddie Murphy decision. I mean, where's he been for the last?
I don't know. What makes him such a hot property now?
Well, I think it's partly because he's not as hot a property anymore. They think he might be sort of middle of the road.
I don't know.
First of all, Eddie Murphy was freaking hilarious back in the day.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he was.
And I think now they're like, he's done some family movies. Maybe he'll please everybody.
We'll see.
Tucker Carlson from the Daily Caller joins us now. What do you think about Eddie Murphy hosting the Oscars?
Eddie Murphy? I mean, I think he'll be better than some of the hosts in the last couple of years. And it's nice to see him back. He was really funny before he got arrested for the whole transvestite hooker thing.
I forgot about that.
That's family friendly. You see what I'm saying?
I remember
That's
every
why we have
transvestite
Tucker.
hooker scandal there was.
Tucker remembers such things. Thanks, Tucker.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy and Hugh Grant's two hooker stories that you just don't want.
Except Hugh Grant. I mean, and this is, I think, a key distinction here. I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but I think Hugh Grant picked up a woman.
Right.
Yes, but ugly woman.
Not exactly Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah, and he was
a woman as ugly as a dude pretending to be a woman.
Right, but he
he
had Elizabeth Hurley, at his side anytime you wanted to, you know what I mean.
And thereby illustrating one of the key truths about men, which is availability is the essence.
This is true. All right, Tucker. We had Dan Pfeiffer, White House Communications Director, on our show.
You wouldn't have believed it, Tucker.
About an hour ago, and we were asking him, hey. And Jay Carney was asked the same question yesterday. How does the president feel about these comments from Jimmy Hoffa Jr. at that rally on Labor Day when he called, people who disagree with the president SOBs, and that, they're an army ready to march the president, and their refusal to denounce those words is mind-boggling to me. What do you think the reason is that they just refuse to say, hey, we don't agree with those comments from Jimmy Hoffa Jr.?
Well, first let me say that Jake Tapper's grilling of Carney yesterday in the briefing was heroic, and anybody who hasn't seen it should get the tape or pull up the transcript. It's fantastic. He just traps him in an airtight logic box, and Carney kind of squirms and then passes out. It's fantastic. Look, they don't want to alienate labor. And so they're taking a completely inconsistent, incomprehensible, really, position, which is bad when other people are nearby, mean comments, but it's okay when we are. I will say, though, I can't resist saying this. My friend Matt Labash sent me an email last night, which made a point I think it's really true, which is the Republicans ought to be in favor of salty language. And when do we get to the point where Americans are so offended by the term SOB?
Right. That's what I actually...
labor leaders, using naughty words, like, what a nation of wussies we're becoming. Let's just stop whining.
Well,
it's okay.
I agree with you, Tucker. I agree with you, Tucker. I mean, maybe we are a little too sensitive, but I mean, what really, I think, just appalls so many people is that there's a double standard.
Well,
that if a Democratic leader does it, it's okay.
One standard. And here's the standard. As long as you don't take up arms against someone or commit physical violence, words are still words. Like, they're not actions. They're different, and they're not as dangerous as guns. So let's just take a deep breath and stop equating words with violence.
I hope that's the new standard for the campaign, because I would enjoy it.
It's the hypocrisy of it, and we asked Pfeiffer, I asked him specifically, so from now on, moving forward, if somebody says something at a rally where Mitt Romney is or Rick Perry is, then civility all depends on who actually spoke the words, not if it came from somebody else. Is as long as that's the new standard, and he agreed to it for the most part.
Of course, and look, I mean, there's a lot at stake. The country is in a really tough spot, and I think there's a lot of evidence that Obama's making it much, much worse. And so this re-election campaign, this is not Clinton-Dole 96. I mean, there's a lot at stake here. And if people get exercised about it, I think that's understandable.
Now, the other thing that came out of our Pfeiffer interview was that the president's going to call for more spending, $300 billion in form of tax cuts for middle class, I guess, from continuing the payroll tax, and also for businesses. But in exchange, he said, and it's all going to be paid for, not going to add a single cent to the deficit. And the reasoning from that is because we're going to actually raise taxes on other people, i.e. the rich.
And don't forget the jet thing.
The corporate jet.
I could not believe he brought that up yet again.
Bottom line is there doesn't seem to be anything really new to this.
Well, of course not. And we're also going to spend a ton on infrastructure improvements, because that's the fastest way to get unionized labor back to work, which is the whole point. I mean, look, the middle class doesn't pay a lot in taxes already. And in fact, most Americans don't pay any federal taxes, as you know. Rich people pay for everything. I'm not defending the rich. I'm not rich, so I wish I were. But they foot the whole bill already. So making the tax code even more lopsided hasn't worked, and I don't think it's going to work this time. Look, they're out of ideas. They had no idea what they were doing. The guy has no understanding of the basic precepts of economics. We sort of knew that when we elected him. We didn't care, and now we're reaping the whirlwinds. It's not, none of it's surprising. I mean, look, the question is not, is Mitt Romney's economic plan perfect? The question is it better than what we have now? And the answer is yes, and you could say the same for John Huntsman, who I think is a ludicrous candidate. But, his economic program, as he laid out earlier this week, is much better than what we've got. I mean, this just isn't working. So I don't think the president's going to have an easy time making the sale on this plan at all.
Speaking of ideas to wring taxpayer dollars out of us, Matt Lewis on Daily Caller was talking about the idea of having the IRS do your taxes for you. They just offer as a service. How'd you feel about that, Tucker?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I trust them completely. I think it's insane.
And then the TSA will actually come to check you for your money afterwards.
Well, look, the problem with it is the same problem that I have with withholding, which is that it makes it much more difficult for people to see how much they're paying out, right? So, like, those of us who file quarterly taxes who don't have withholding, see really clearly what we owe the IRS, and and we should know. We should have to confront that unpleasant truth because it's reality. Having the IRS do your taxes is just another way to, put you under the anesthesia of the federal government's paternalism and make it harder for you to know what they're taking, and that's bad.
All right, Tucker Carlson, always good to have you here on the Morning Majority.
Excellent. Have a great morning.
Hey, listen, thanks for joining us.